It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hey, everybody.
Oh, we got a show.
Hello and welcome.
Oh, okay.
He's Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley. Forgive us. We just watched the interview.
If I lied to you tonight, this morning, if I lied to you this morning, it's simply bad grammar. All right?
Yeah, right,
now,
exactly.
We thought he was going to be the mansplainer.
Yeah, well,
He couldn't mansplain anything.
He couldn't. I think you have to be a man to splain, don't you?
It was just oh, my gosh.
Man.
And the other thing, before we get back to that, you know, the whole thing, the whole story, just because you and I were talking about this when we started laughing, the entire thing about, you know, the Foo Fighters came out and said, Trump can't use our music.
Yeah.
And then, and it's, of course he can, as long as he pays the BMI and ASCAP fees.
Yep.
And you were telling me that Eddie Trunk from the
that metal show.
The metal show, right.
Radio, mostly hard rock and heavy metal guru, really. I mean, he probably has more information and is more knowledgeable about that genre than anything. But he posted on X a little while ago, look, let's stop this ridiculous stuff. And I'm paraphrasing. You either, because ABBA is the latest, he says, you either take it off of BMI, ASCAP, and you don't offer it up at all to be used at all.
As we said.
Or they pay the royalties. We know this because of what we do.
Right.
Or they pay the royalties. REM sent us a notification of Michael Stipe's lawyer. Quit using our song on your hate-filled program. And we were like, and I'm pretty sure it was a dead-on Michael Stipe at the time. And we actually obliged.
Oh, yeah.
Not because we felt we had to, actually. In fact, management didn't get involved in all. You and I made that decision, and because we didn't even know that we had an REM song.
It was such an obscure song, we didn't even know that it was a bumper on the show to begin with.
Yeah, and and we're both fans of REM, but we weren't trying to be fanboys. We weren't trying to be. I love their music. I think they're great.
It's okay.
But it's not. I'm not pressured to do anything either way, and we. There wouldn't have been, the lawyer sending a letter. By the way, the lawyer knows that because the lawyer wouldn't have sent a letter. They would have sent our lawyer a letter.
Right. Well, the thing is, we were very disappointed when we found out that Trump was using ABBA to begin with.
Well, ABBA was upset that Trump is using ABBA.
Right.
And Red Eye is upset that Trump is using ABBA.
Right.
Why are you using ABBA?
We think it would be much more appropriate for the Harris campaign to use it, especially when they talk about the economy, and right after that, right into Waterloo.
Yeah, exactly.
Or REM, it's the end of the world as we know it.
Exactly.
And everybody feels fine.
Right. And everybody cries sometimes. Everybody just get out of their cars on a freeway and abandon them.
All right, let's quickly look at this. I'll give you my quick analysis, and then can I go first?
Sure.
Okay. Just a couple of things out of this. How can Trump use this? When you do an interview like this, because it's only one interview, and how I look at it, what can Trump get out of it? Number one, this right here. Let's go back when she talked about fracking, okay? All right. First, we go back to 2019. Somebody put this together, but I'm sure the campaign will put this together very, very quickly, how she lied about fracking and the fact that in 2020, she was pro-fracking. Absolute lie. It's like, wow. You knew this question was coming. You knew it was coming, and you decided to give the most obvious lie possible because the internet exists.
Yeah.
Here we go. Here's she in 2019. We'll compare to 2019 as to last night.
There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. You know, we have to just acknowledge that the residual impact of fracking is enormous in terms of the impact on the health and safety of communities. I think about this issue through the lens of my baby nieces, who are 1.5 and 3 years old. And when I look at those babies and I think about what the world will be like in 20 years if we don't act, I'm really afraid. And as it relates to those Republicans in Congress, where I've now been for 2.5 years, every one of those members need to look at the babies, the grandbabies in their life, and then look in the mirror and ask themselves, why have they failed to act?
All right, now that's 2019. Is that a pro-fracking stance?
No.
As she said last night, here she is last night.
And in 2019, you said, quote, there is no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. Fracking, as you know, is a pretty big issue, particularly in your must-win state of Pennsylvania.
Sure.
Do you still want to ban fracking?
No, and I made that clear on the debate stage in 2020, that I would not ban fracking. As vice president, I did not ban fracking. As president, I will not ban fracking.
Number one, that's a lie. She wasn't on a debate stage in 2020. She dropped out in December of 2019.
Right. And she never took the pro-fracking side.
No.
Just to me. And CNN.
Oh, hold on a second. She may have been referring to the vice presidential debate. The vice presidential debate would have happened in 2020. It wasn't a primary debate, but it was the vice presidential debate. That could have been what she was referring to.
Okay, here we go. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
This is CNN.
The fact check bottom line, Abby, is that she did not actually make clear at a 2020 debate that she had changed her previous support for a fracking ban. So let me take you through this kind of saga. So here's what she said at a CNN climate town hall in 2019 on the subject of a fracking ban.
Will you commit to implementing a federal ban on fracking your first day in office, adding the United States to the list of countries who have banned this devastating practice?
There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. So, yeah.
That was quite clear. So she ended her 2020 presidential run in December 2019. The only debate she participated in 2020 was the general election debate with then Vice President Mike Pence. And I went over the transcript of that debate tonight. Nowhere in there does she make clear that she had abandoned her previous support for a fracking ban. Rather, she repeated that Joe Biden, the head of the Democratic ticket at the time, would himself not ban fracking. So listen to what she actually said in that 2020 debate.
Joe Biden will not end fracking. He has been very clear about that. I will repeat, and the American people know, that Joe Biden will not ban fracking.
So it makes perfect sense that at the time she was speaking on behalf of Biden, the president, not the vice president, sets administration policy. But maybe other people feel differently. I certainly did not hear anywhere in there Kamala Harris saying that she personally had abandoned her previously expressed 2019 view. Rather, again, she was speaking for Joe Biden.
That's on CNN.
Yeah. Yeah.
By the way, and that was after Biden had said over and over again he would end all fossil fuels. Remember that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
so they were always going back
Yeah.
and forth on it, but we know what they want to do.
Right.
And so that was number one. Was never specifically asked about the wall, but on immigration, not because she just deflected the question.
Mm-hmm.
When is it, what about you? You know, you've done some executive orders here just recently. Why didn't you start it 3.5 years ago? And she just ignored that one. Just, you know, it seemed like that just didn't matter at all. Then the word salad to begin was pretty bad. And then Waltz, wow. That just...
Yeah, I mean, he didn't help her. She didn't help her. And it was the question that I had throughout the show yesterday was, what if all the editing in the world doesn't fix the interview? Because you really can't fix the word salads. They're not going to, because the sentence has to have a beginning and an end. And when it rambles, and here it is, she says to Dana Bash, you mentioned the Green New Deal. I have always believed, and I've worked on it, that the climate crisis is real, that it's an urgent matter to which we should apply metrics that include holding ourselves to deadlines around time. Now, all of my life, adult life, having a job and whatnot, and I guess we could apply it to school, I thought all deadlines were around time. Are you telling me there's another kind of deadline and I could have adhered to that type of deadline and been late every freaking day? Because trust me, I would have taken advantage of that, full advantage of it. That kind of word salad is not going to, this is the problem that you can't fix. It's exactly what I brought up on the show yesterday, is it was an empty interview and Tim Walz just made it worse.
Yeah.
I
hate
really
to say
thought
this, she might have been better on alone.
No. That's exactly where I was going with it. It wouldn't have been a good grade to begin with, and it's not really just my bias. Okay, yeah, I've got some conservative shades on right now, no doubt. But this was a bad interview, and it was the edited version.
Yeah.
So let's now try and, in our minds, picture what a live press conference would be.
Well, remember, it was an edited interview with CNN providing no transcript
Right.
of the complete interview.
Right.
I will say this. Obviously, what they've told them is don't anybody smile or laugh.
Yeah.
Only do that for the rallies. Because if you had Waltz went from, he was just scowling all the time.
Yeah.
And that's how you've got to look at the optics of it. He was scowling. She obviously was told, do not laugh, do not smile.
Right.
And it's weird when you look at that. And even the setting seemed to be a very, very dark kind of set that made them look gloomy.
Right.
That's how and this is what, again, this is when we put on our political hats. And we say that we look at it through the, you said you look at it through the, our conservative libertarian eyes. But I think also you and I also can set that apart and just say, what were the optics of it? And I want to play here because this was really, the other thing is when it said live on CNN, it wasn't live.
It wasn't
That
live.
was pointed out. Live on CNN, it wasn't live.
It wasn't live.
And you had the banner across that it was live. And also, I think it was Scott Jennings and the other thing that was brought up, the other weak part, is when she defended and said that Biden was wonderful and everything else, and there was no problem whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then why did he resign?
Right.
So she basically continued that lie that all Americans know. And that might have been bypassed by a lot of people looking at it. I didn't, because I went, well, that's the most obvious thing. You look at the most obvious thing. People may sit there and go, well, I really don't know about I don't know about price controls, or I don't know, unrealized capital gains. I have no idea what that is, but they know, because they've known for a long time now. All the polls showed it, that Joe Biden did not have any type of cognitive abilities and does not right now. And the big question is who's running the White House. For sort of her to come out and again go way overboard and say wonderful, articulate, the entire thing. I just went, that's bad.
Yeah.
And because it's simple, that's something that people can really understand. But I'll find the interview. I'll find it from Scott Jennings coming up. But it's where he was talking about the fact that the banner on CNN, as she was talking, said, basically she embraces the Biden, the Biden economic plan. Mm-hmm. That it said it actually on the screen of CNN.
Right.
So they had already known the interview and said, okay, at this part, we put this out. Like,
right.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Let me see. This is where he talks about economic policies here. I got so many audio cuts in front of me here.
Yeah.
Let's quickly play it. Here we go.
I agree with Asted about this idea of the question of who's going to change will be the fundamental defining question of the election. And I was sort of watching this, holistically. What is she saying? What does she look like? What's on the screen? So at the beginning, when she's talking about Biden and their record, our screen said This is called the Chiron. The headline at the bottom, it said, Harris stands by Biden administration economic record. She is making it clear that she will embrace and be a continuation of Biden's economic policy, his record, what they've done. She offered no remorse, no regrets, no introspection about anything they've done. She continued to blame inflation on this fantasy price gouging idea. She had no additional thoughts on the economic situation in the country or what they've done beyond just saying, Joe Biden and I have done a great job. Now, if I were the Trump people, I would be salivating over the idea that that's how they are going to run the race. I don't believe it's tenable.
There you go.
Yeah. Part of the problem in waiting all this time is that you get everybody very curious, including your base, that I've got to see, because they're waiting, either for a cringe moment or they're waiting for this to go very well and then basically respond on social media as they're, going to be unofficial surrogates and everything else. And, hey, she did great, blah, 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 blah. So you draw so much attention to it. And the fact that you brought your Veep pick there and he didn't help at all, you made him look worse, not just yourself, is a problem. Politically, I don't know how much prep went into this interview, but it was very clear. I said with the convention, I believed the reason you didn't see her during that week is because they were in heavy rehearsals. It wasn't campaign stops. And clearly, there's not enough preparation in the world to make her a good interview subject, even when you edit.
866-90 Red Eye.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance. Keep your engine humming in the heat this summer by keeping up with preventive maintenance. Think your PM is complete after your oil is changed? Think again. There's grease, transmission fluids, and gear oil to consider too. Grease, for example, is made of oil, thickener, and additives. It provides rust protection by preventing water spray-off and wash-off on equipment like the universal joint, fifth wheel, and clutch throwout bearings. It also helps protect major greasing points like tie rod ends, spring pin bushings, kingpin, and the chassis. Today's synthetic oils means more miles between engine oil changes, but greasing intervals aren't growing at the same pace. Your fifth wheel, for example, needs to be greased every 15,000 miles or monthly.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Coming up here, I just lost it now. I had. I'll get the audio of the panel discussion on CNN, and where you had just Scott Jennings, really as the Republican, and all of them.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I mean, it was okay. It was okay. If you've got her surrogates going, it was okay. There were problems.
Well, that's the thing, is that you're looking, this is kind of what I was alluding to earlier before the break, and that is her unofficial surrogates, your followers. If this had been something to celebrate, you would have seen that all over social media. And her official surrogates, it's like, okay, well, that happened. And that's not, again, when you finally do this, it should be better than the convention. It should be more convincing. And they couldn't pull it off. And the reason is because there's nothing there. From the beginning, there's nothing there. And she's not telling the truth. And everybody knows it.
Links to everything Red Eye on the website redeyeradioshow.com.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you choose. It's interesting because you think about it. I mean, you in one day yesterday, you had Vance and Trump probably speak a couple of hours. I mean, they've spoke more yesterday than she has the entire time.
Yeah,
but it's the fact that it's the fact that she hasn't done any type of interviews at all, none.
Right.
And so there's a lot more focus. On it. I really wonder if she's going to come out in the next day or two and say, "All right, we're going to do a press conference." I would not be surprised if that did not happen.
I, in fact, would advise the campaign to not even mention it, not even get close to doing that.
But as I go through more of the audio cuts, which we have the video of it, and I was telling you during the break, I think the optics is important. How a person looks, and I was telling you a Seinfeld reference that the room and the lighting with her head tilted down reminded me of the Seinfeld episode of Two-Faced.
Mm-hmm.
And people don't know it. It was Jerry was dating this woman, and in the right light, she looked very pretty. Mm-hmm. And in the wrong light, they just moved it was the same woman, and they moved the lighting, the shading of it, and she did not look attractive. Mm-hmm. And it was a hilarious episode because it was all on lighting. But when you look I'm looking at, for example, we've got a ton of CNN cuts because we figure that the majority of the panelists there are on the left. You have Scott Jennings. You have, I think it was, I can't think of his name, David Urban, who was a GOP strategist, senior strategist, I think, for the 2020 campaign for Trump. He was also on. But the vast majority are liberals. So you actually have going back and forth. You have you can look and see from the liberals, especially when they can be cross-examined, by good spokespeople from the right. You see whether they have confidence or not in what she was doing. But looking at, you look at just the panel discussion, how well it's lighted in the studio, and everybody looks good. Even if you're not extremely attractive, you look pretty good. The lights, the makeup, you can make people look good. Mm-hmm. It looked very depressing and dark and sad, and with her head down and the lighting, it didn't look good.
Well, I kept expecting Dana Bash to say, "All right, that's all I got. The other detectives want to ask you some questions." It just looked like, and that's the problem.
Looked like an interrogation room.
It looked like an interrogation room.
I didn't know where you were going at first. I go,
yeah.
What's he talking about?
Yeah.
Oh, an interrogation.
Yeah, the other detectives have some questions for you. Thank you for your time. Do you need some water or anything where we can get your DNA? So it really, that was, and you don't want that.
No, you don't.
What I was really expecting is we spent some time with the vice president and her running mate at a quaint ranch in Southern California.
Yes.
And then walking down this trail and, and then children, playing in the background, horses running, butterflies doing whatever it is they do. That kind of...
Fly.
Oh, yeah. That kind of thing. So you're saying there's no butter? So the whole thing... Is that what you're trying to tell me? The whole thing looked bad. And then her body language to add on top of that. One of the things that you look for in someone who is self-confident is that posture. Donald Trump has aged very well because his posture hasn't changed. His presence hasn't changed. Say what you will about him, but his confidence has not flinched one bit in all of his adult life. You look at him, and when he walks through the room, he walks through the room the same way, which is why he gets so much attention. Anyone with that kind of confidence, obviously he's very famous, but he has that kind of confidence, and he carries that with him. That doesn't change. With her, there is a real problem with the way that she looks at people, because when she's trying to answer a question, as she looks toward them, if she ducks her head, she's looking to see if they're buying what she's selling. And that's a tell. It's, in fact, in terms of interrogation techniques, it's what you look for.
No, that's good that you brought up posture, because that's the correct word. The posture, even sitting down, was almost as if, she was slightly hunched over.
Right. And
then the
she's
tilt
got her
of
head
and,
tilted.
And it was down a little bit, and the lighting was just,
right.
It's not good. But those are things you're supposed to catch. The campaign people, you're supposed to have campaign people to do this. But one of the problems, and Axios had the story yesterday, you've got Biden people.
Yeah.
You've got Obama
it's
people.
Chaos.
And you've got Harris people. Nobody knows who's in charge of the campaign, and that's why they had this incredible Axios report. Politico reported that they can't come to an agreement on anything. It took them a month to figure out how to do the most friendly interview, because they've got Biden people, Obama people, and Harris people, and nobody knows who the hell's in charge of the campaign.
And this is what happened that led to her ending her campaign December 3rd of 2019. It wasn't just that they were out of money. The volunteers and the people affiliated with her, the staffers affiliated with her campaign, it was just chaos on the inside. They couldn't get a direction, and that's a problem, because remember when it started in 2016 with Trump, and then the whole, you got a couple of guys in an office in Trump Tower, and at the top of the erase board it says, or dry erase board, it says, "Let Trump be Trump." What that means is he leads this campaign. We take his lead. She's never led her own campaign. She couldn't do it when she was running in 2019. She can't do it as vice president. The media, the liberal media, knows that, and she's not doing it now, because there would be no infighting, no chaos in my campaign. I guarantee you that. Everybody would be very clear where I stand, and there would be no questions, because if you have any and you're not clear, you're not on the team.
Well, no, that's the point. If you're running for a campaign, you as the leader, you bring to it, and I agree with you on that. If you and I, for example, ran for Congress, for God's sakes, if you got up to a campaign for the presidency, I would know exactly what I want. You would know exactly what I want, or what you want. And we would follow that, and we would promote, look, these are the things that I believe. And by the way, the vast majority of people agree with it, and they're all moral issues. They're all the right economic issues out there. And anywhere where it's a little bit below, we're going to convince them, and here's how we're going to do it.
Right.
If we aren't leading in this one, here's what we're going to do. But I believe that the person, you've got to be very careful, I think. Now, you and I have done talk radio for years, decades upon decades. We know exactly where we stand on the issues, and we're not shy about it. But if you are running for politics, you're running for office, you're trying to figure out, where does the public stand and where do I have to fit in? Instead of, I believe what the majority of the American public believes, I can sell it. And if only 45% of people agree with me and 55% of people don't, I can convince them,
right?
Because I know what I'm talking about. You walk in with that confidence, she has no idea where to go. And so it's like, well, who leads? And a lot of campaigns are led by the campaign manager, and you're not the campaign manager if you're the candidate.
You were still very unclear. In fact, probably more unclear as to what she would do as president after the interview, and that's a problem.
No, that's a great point.
She
point.
made the waters even more muddier, and that is not going to. That's not even, if you. Because they know what's coming off the convention. There was a reason they had to have a serious tone. They knew that. Aesthetics, they were focused on that. Aesthetics, don't smile. My question is, where's the joy? And
there was no joy.
There was no joy. And so let's be very serious. Well, the point of being serious would be so that you can get your agenda across. You can have a tone that is direct and serious, and that people would understand it, and you made it worse.
On something like that, they jumped on the joy. Notice they've backed off on it the last few days.
Yeah.
Did their polling tell them it wasn't working? The people want serious. But when you don't know, and I think the best thing that you said over the last couple of weeks is the Harris campaign is in the, we're in the exploratory portion right now. We're trying to figure out whether we're going to run in a primary. So we need to figure out where we stand and how we're going to position everything. But this whole thing, joy, joy, joy. And then even Clinton, this is the campaign of joy. And I love pleasure. And so, but
I once knew a girl named Joy.
and so it was joy, 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 joy. All you hear was joy. And then you've got these people in a personal interview in a very dark studio that makes them look depressed who have no joy.
Yeah. It's this again, further proof that they are in exploratory committee mode, which is something you do a couple of years out. If you're thinking about running, and so many people have done it and then said, yeah, we're thinking not this time around. Now you have it where they are floating so many ideas. If your convention is part of that test marketing, you've got a problem. And it clearly was. And they responded, but it didn't go well. The interview, again, made it worse. It's very unclear as to what she would do.
Okay, so we've got these very quickly. I want to play this here, a montage of the panelist on CNN. Starts out with former senior advisor to Obama, David Axelrod, and the vast majority of them are liberals, Democrats. And then you have Scott Jennings at the end, who was a Republican. Here we go.
It wasn't a huge, I don't think she moved the ball that much forward.
I don't think there's a policy separation that they've created with Biden. Obviously, she gave a kind of personal defense of him.
Now, you might not like the way she answered him, but she answered him as a capable, qualified leader. And I do think she moved the ball forward a little bit. Maybe she didn't score a touchdown.
I think the two biggest issues coming out of Biden for her are the economic policies, which she clearly wants to embrace, but also the immigration policies. Dana asked her if she had anything to say about what they did for 3.5 years leading up until the back and forth this year. Completely sidestepped it, did not answer it. She goes back to her time as Attorney General. But again, absolutely nothing, no responsibility, no reflection at all on the day one executive actions or anything else they did for 3.5 years or anything she said in her previous campaign, which was to have the most permissive immigration structure. She's trying to skip a block of time at the debate. Trump cannot allow it.
You look at the faces when Jennings talk, and you don't see anger. It's like,
right,
we don't know how to answer this.
You also don't see the others anxious to push back and go, no, Scott, it blah, 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 blah. There's none of that because they know he's right. They know this because they weren't, again, she was not the one a month and a half ago. They weren't calling for her. They were talking about, in fact, in some cases, her word salads. They know the problem.
And in the back of their minds are, she's going to fail. She's going to fail.
Yes.
Because why? Because she failed before. She's the worst candidate.
Right.
She was the drag on the Biden presidency.
Right.
This is what they were saying just a little over a month ago.
Yep.
She's horrible. She can't do it. And so they know this is all media hype.
Right.
They know it.
Yep.
866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. More on the, quote, interview.
Yeah.
Can you believe they won't release a transcript? My God. I mean, that's the entire thing when you look at it. I mean, everything that they do, in my humble opinion, is wrong.
It really is a misstep every turn.
On CNN, from the lighting to then putting, the banner at the bottom saying CNN Live. It wasn't live. I mean, there's so many things to criticize about CNN's coverage of it, but their analysis of it afterwards, especially allowing Scott Jennings and David Urban to speak, really quieted down.
Yeah.
Quieted down everything. You can tell. And that's what liberals need. Liberals need cross-examination from people who know the issues.
Yeah.
And know how to cross-examine, because that's how you keep them quiet.
Yep.
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. Good morning. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks so much for being here this morning. When I woke up yesterday is when it started. And I woke up early yesterday, so I only got a couple hours sleep. It was like by 8 or 8:30 I was up, because I went to sleep about 5:30 as soon as I got home. I wake up and I see, she might not have ever worked at McDonald's. Like, oh, come on. Who's going to lie about working at McDonald's? And then throughout the entire day, I mean, on social media, more research and more research. We can't find anything. We went to McDonald's. They have no records of her working there. We found a resume that she had, put out back in 1987. There's nothing. All these other jobs are listed. No McDonald's there. It's just like, oh my God, did she lie about working at McDonald's? And if she did, why?
Because you got to look all folksy, like regular person and whatnot. Thank you. Drive through.
I want to make it clear. When I said I worked at Dunkin' Donuts, I worked at Dunkin' Donuts. And when I said my boss, Jerry, said to me one day, because I started out as a porter, janitor, cleaning everything, the restrooms and everything else. And he checked the restrooms out one day, checked the toilet out. True story. And he always led, if he was addressing anybody, with, "Hey there." I'm not kidding. And he looked at me and he said, "Hey there, guy. The toilet's not clean, so stick your hand in the bowl and scrape all the crap out with your fingernails." God is my witness. Now, I'm saying that because anybody who knows me, all of my friends know the story, including my best friend Jeff, who worked at Dunkin' Donuts with me at that time.
Right.
And I didn't clean the toilet that day because I was so ticked at him for telling me that. So I left it for Jeff, who had to do it the next day. And then
You're really making me hungry, by the way.
And then Jeff saw that it wasn't clean, so he didn't clean it, so I would clean it the next day. We can't remember how long it went on for. But I had a guy write me once when I told that story. He goes, "You're making that up. That never happened." Well, if I am lying about that, then understand that happened in 1973. That means I'm just like Joe Biden. I've been a pathological liar of something stupid for over 50 years, a half a century.
Yeah. May the porcelain gods strike you down. Yeah.
True story. And when he died a couple years ago, I mentioned it on the radio. Remember when he died, his obituary. He also, the advice he gave me. There's only two things important in life: sex and money, and not necessarily in that order.
He didn't say sex for money.
No, he said sex and money.
Okay.
Yes, sex and money.
Because there is a difference.
And not necessarily in that order. That was the kicker.
Yeah.
When he said that, and not necessarily in that order.
I got some pushback one time when I said I've never worked fast food. And someone was like, oh, come on. You were a teen in the 80s and you didn't work fast food? Because back then I had a buddy who worked Burger King. And I talked to him actually over the last couple of years. And he said, man, when we ran at Burger King, there were so many people that worked behind the counter. And now, he said, you go into a fast food place and it's just a handful of people. I don't know how they do it. And so I wrote back to the guy that, come on, you worked fast food. And I wrote back and I said, no, I never worked fast food. I didn't want to actually do work for pay. When I found out I could get paid for actually playing music, and then radio was willing to pay me. Eventually, I started at 18, coming up on 40 years next week. And at 18, I realized, they'll pay me and give me benefits? I mean, it's not much, but it's something. Yeah. No, I didn't want to actually work for a living, so I never did.
Well, then I became an assistant baker. So remember when Dunkin' Donuts used to have the window?
Yeah.
They used to have the window where you bake right, and people would look, going, wow, look at that guy doing that.
Yeah.
And
some of the Krispy Kremes, or maybe all of them still do, if you go inside. Yeah.
Do they? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't go into donut shops anymore.
Yeah.
But, I remember, I know the difference between a yeast donut and a cake donut.
Right. Yeah, sure.
And I remember starting from scratch, and I remember getting burned by the grease.
Right.
Because you'd have to put the donuts and then flip them to the other side.
Yeah. Now they have a machine that does that.
Yeah.
As kind of an assembly line thing.
And I think most donut places, the actual retail outlets, they get it from a central location for somebody. They mass produce them. But
and that's what Krispy Kreme actually, speaking of, you can't go into donut places anymore. But as they were expanding, I mean, just boom, they expanded right as the Atkins diet thing was also kicking up. And people were like, cut back on sugar and everything else. And so the two clashed. And Krispy Kreme is still around, of course, because we're not going to give up donuts.
The thing is, I mean, it doesn't matter whether she worked at McDonald's, but it would be something that the Republicans could use and say, she's just like Biden. She lies about things that she did in the past that she never did. And
she needlessly lies.
Right. And it's such a, if she did lie on it, it's such a stupid lie.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, do a Wilt Chamberlain. I made love to 20,000 women. I mean, if you're going to lie big.
Right. I owned a McDonald's at 16. Say that.
Right, exactly.
Right.
That's right.
But it's important as to why she lied. Again, if she's trying to say, I came from humble beginnings, you can do that and still tell the truth. I mean, who didn't? Unless you inherited a ton of money. We all started with very humble beginnings. All you have to do is tell your story. I would think, but here's the problem. Fact-checking things now is so easy. And the media gets curious about everything. And even with the advent, even long after the internet, years after the internet was in everybody's hands, and we had gotten into social media, people still had not learned the lesson. And so, they would post something on social media, and then it's, well, a post from 2013 is coming back to haunt so-and-so, blah, 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 blah. It really goes back to the lack of self-awareness.
But if she worked at McDonald's and then ended up at the University of California, Hastings College of Law, where she got her degree, isn't that a negative?
Right. You can't rise like that.
Isn't that a negative if she
It's what they're criticizing J.D. Vance for, coming from very humble beginnings.
Right.
A family that, I don't know, what do they call it these days? We used to call it a broken family, broken marriage, whatever it was. And then went to Yale. What she was trying to do on the stage the other night in her speech at the convention was show that. Her parents divorced and the whole thing, and, humble beginnings, and here I am.
Right.
Oh, but for J.D. Vance, it's wrong.
Well, look, to Kamala, you got to lie. If you lied about that, you gotta rearrange your lies.
Yeah.
Make it into something spectacular, like Eric said. When I was 16 years old, I owned 10 McDonald's.
Exactly. I used to play guitar for Aerosmith. Those kind of things. Go big. By the way, something happens to me and all the guys in Aerosmith show up at my funeral. Wouldn't that be everybody?
Well,
oh my gosh, was he telling the truth the whole time?
Well, no, they'd be there to honor the ex-Navy SEAL, Eric Harley.
No, you know what they would be there? They would be there to honor, look, this guy chose us, for his lie. So we're honored that he chose us.
Or they saw your picture that I saw with your long hair when you were playing the heavy metal, the guitar, and said, this dude looks like a lady.
I had a mustache. That doesn't mean anything, though.
No.
Could still could be. Yeah.
All right, I want to play this audio cut here from Harris, because this was part of the rally yesterday.
Yeah.
And this is when the protesters are there, and this is just an example of the fear that the campaign has.
Mm-hmm.
Because if she gets distracted at all, it's really fascinating that, and of course, as we said, Dana Bash's job yesterday was to protect her. And so there was not the usual cross-examination that there should have been done, or the follow-up questions at all.
I mean, she gave her an exit ramp on many of, if not most of the questions, the way Dana Bash asked them, just the way she phrased them.
Well, maybe are they going to be doing this with Trump, asking him multiple choice questions?
Right.
I mean, that was that was bizarre.
Yeah.
But this was her at the rally yesterday, and you could hear some of the pro-terrorist Democrats in the background chanting against her. Here we go.
He even called for termination of the United States Supreme, the supreme land of our nation, the United States Constitution.
You could tell she was struggling. You see it in her eyes. You see it in her face. She has no confidence in her ability to speak in front of a public or to ad-lib in any way. What is really amazing is after going through everything with Biden, that then she is next in line and being promoted as the most qualified Democrat out there. And as you and I said, watching CNN and the Democrats there, especially with the cross-examination, whether it was David Urban, we'll play that coming up here in a little bit, or Scott Jennings, they said, okay, nothing really there, because in the back of their minds, everyone knows.
Yeah.
For years, she was the worst Democrat, and within a month, they've decided to create this, to install this total media creation, which is 180 degrees of what they just thought of her 5-6 weeks ago.
Right. And you can't fake that stuff.
No.
That's the problem. You can't fake that stuff. You know, there was a shift between when Trump announced he was going to run again, and I mean a shift on the right. And what his support was the day he announced, what was that, November of 22? And then the January of 24, there was a monumental shift in what was happening with the base. His core base was there in November of 2022, but not everybody on the right was on board with Trump running again. And then through a series of events and then everything else with lawfare, his base built even stronger. What you see here is them trying to fake something for her. That's not happening. And there's not someone else, again, that they were going to call for. Tell me who they were actually calling for. It wasn't her, but who was it? Who was the next star of the Democratic Party?
It was last year, Gavin Newsom.
Until it wasn't.
And
they couldn't,
right.
and so they don't have a rock star. They don't have anybody. She's it. She's the best they got. And that's a problem for a party that used to be able to snap their fingers and have people show up. I'm not saying people won't vote for her, because they will. But really, it's not a vote for her as much as it is against Donald Trump, and we all know that.
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
The IFTA tax program redistributes tax revenue to states based on your actual miles run. Thus, the truly cheapest fuel can only be found if you subtract federal and state taxes and state surcharges from the pump price to compare. The strategy means that you buy without regard for whether you are paying more at the pump in taxes. IFTA also considers state surcharges, which complicates the fuel buying strategy. Indiana, Kentucky, and Virginia have per gallon surcharges. Connecticut, Kentucky, New Mexico, New York, and Oregon have per mile surcharges. While some owner-operators buy only enough fuel to get through surcharge states, this practice can backfire, depending on the actual cost of the fuel in each state. When comparing fuel prices, always remember, pump pride minus taxes equals the real fuel cost. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more detail on this and many other topics.
Brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Meanwhile, Trump was in Michigan yesterday. This was a moment at one of the speaking to, you notice they were speaking to union members yesterday.
Yeah.
But he brought up the organizer of the group called Autoworkers for Trump.
Thank you, Mr. President. And the last time you called me up on stage in Grand Rapids, it was the first rally that you'd held since the assassination attempt. And I was speechless. But tonight, I want to say a couple things real briefly. I represent the Auto Workers for Trump organization, which was a Facebook group. I started that group. Thank you. There's some auto workers here, I'm sure. Lansing got a lot of them. But unfortunately, a lot of them have lost their jobs. Listen, Chrysler and General Motors have already gone bankrupt once. But if we allow electric vehicle mandates to be put on this industry by the federal government, they're going out of business again.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean,
it's what we've said over and over
exactly
again, and that's
what we've been saying.
And that's where the great betrayal is of the union management, because they agreed to it and they knew it and they promoted it.
Yep,
and they promoted all the leftist agenda. That to me is still one of those mind-boggling things over the last couple of decades. Is how union leadership has betrayed the union members who are paying their salaries.
And
that is the mind-blowing thing.
And the fact that it just seems to just now be coming around in a big way where the members are more vocal.
Yep, but that was a good rally. You saw he was talking back and forth actually with Tulsi Gabbard, and also J.D. Vance going into the firefighters union.
Yeah,
getting you could hear the boos.
Oh yeah,
and he went right at him. He knew it was coming.
Right,
and here you have them going everywhere, and she has to be protected with a fluff softball interview,
and it still doesn't go well.
By the way, people are making the comparison to how Dana Bash interviewed J.D. Vance as to how she interviewed Harris.
Yeah.
A little bit of a difference. Huh?
Yeah, just a slight difference.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Before we get to more of the interview, you saw some conservative pundits just furious at Trump. You saw the interview he did on the abortion bill in Florida, right? Now, again, this is where you have to be precise on a bill, because they asked, will you vote for the bill to overturn, the 6-week time limit? And he said, I'll vote to give more time. Well, the fact is this bill would make abortion legal till birth. And so he didn't answer it correctly,
right,
or he left open a significant window for criticism.
Right.
Because I've just listened to the whole thing there, and I'm going, okay, he didn't say that, because it's like, oh, he's voting for the bill. He didn't say he's voting for the bill. When he said he's voting for more time, does that mean he's voting for that bill? Because there's no way he said he was voting for abortion till birth. But the problem is here, as we all know, all the media has to do is ask the question, when does life begin? Nobody will do that because that's the question.
Right.
Well, no, you need more than 6 weeks. Why?
Right.
Why?
Right.
What is the reason? And as we've stated, the movement towards pro-life in this country is, well, the movement is moving towards pro-life. And you know that because the majority of people do not want abortion till birth. And I've gone through this many, many times with the debate since Dodd's with pro-choice women. Who the first thing out of their mouths was, it was my body, I can do whatever I want with it. Oh, okay, then you believe in abortion till birth. No, I think there should be limits on time. Well, then it's not about your body.
At some point,
right?
Somebody else makes that decision.
Right. So what is the, what's the point? When does it, become, and how? And people are guessing. That's the thing about abortion. They're just guessing. Well, I think it's going to be 6 weeks or 12 or this or that. They're guessing.
Right.
What's convenient?
Well, no, they're playing the game with it.
What's convenient for me? But the majority of Americans believe that sometime in the womb, the group of cells become a human. I'm using the liberal quote there.
Yeah.
A group of cells, a group of cells. So it's anywhere from conception to birth. But it's not birth.
Right.
Because the majority of Americans don't want it. So it's between conception and some undetermined amount of time, heartbeat, arms and legs, right? Isn't this right. Is what the debate is right now? So now, is that going to be that much of an issue for people to vote for Trump? No. Because I'll tell you this, whenever we get into talking about any of the issues, you and I have said it, I'm not voting for the day-to-day issues. I'm voting to eliminate lawfare. I'm voting to get rid of the weaponization of government. And the weaponization of government is done in a variety of different ways, not just censoring. You see it with Tulsi Gabbard. Why the hell is she on the terrorist watch list?
Right.
And if she is, you better explain, because she's on the transition team for Trump, right?
Yeah.
Think about it. You know how bogus it is? The Democrats aren't even using that. They're not even using, think about that. Wouldn't you use that?
Oh, yeah.
That is
Here's somebody who's on the terrorist watch list, and she's going to be helping Trump during the transition if he wins.
And why aren't they using it?
Because they know it's bogus.
Because they know it's bogus, and they know it's a perfect example of what the Republicans are saying about the weaponization of government.
Well, and a significant number of them. Remember when the Colorado thing of taking Trump off the ballot, they looked at that and said no, because if we do that, then they will do that, and it will never end. And they know that with the lawfare and weaponization of government agencies, it would be no end. And it would be a back and forth. And if we don't nip this in the bud now, then we won't. Okay. But the thing is the Democrats don't have any desire to change any of that.
The thing about abortion is nobody actually wants to think about it.
Right.
Nobody actually wishes to be logical about it.
Right.
Because the point that you're making in abortion that nobody discusses at all is, okay, when does it become a life? And I had the discussion with Independent Bob. How do you, once it becomes a human life, and society says it's a human life at this point, that it's a separate human life. And these are tough questions. Maybe when we die, we'll get the answer to it.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's a human being, well, there needs to be exception. Well, so you're saying killing a human being, there's an exception to killing a human being. Because at some point, it's a human being. People don't want to have those discussions because it's really uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
Well, just like Reagan, the exceptions, which means what? So you won't kill a human being over here, but you will kill a human being over there. Because that's the thing, the discussion people don't want to have is using the term human being versus a group of cells or a fetus.
Right. Well, in the argument of my body, my body, my body, the attempt there is to not acknowledge the life of the child.
Yes, right.
In other words,
right.
Make it nothing, make it non-existent. Right. It's my body. Well, actually, there's a child involved too.
Every single woman because every single discussion I've had with it after, and I haven't had it in a while, it was really the year after Dodd's passed, where I met people and they found out, that I was a, conservative talk show host. And when I explained it, they had no answer. When I explained what the Supreme Court did, well, I said, the other side's fascist. The other side said, who decides the murder laws in this country? The legislature. Federal does on federal murder charges, but most murders are the state legislature. So that means, so the people, the elected representatives through the people, have they done that on abortion? No. When does it become a child? Well, it's about my body. It's about my body. Okay, fine. Then you're for abortion till birth. Well, absolutely not. That's brutal. That's cruel. Well, then it's not about your body. Because what you're saying is sometime in your body, the fetus becomes a human being is what you're telling me. That's what you're telling me at this point. And so it's not about your body. You're acknowledging it's two separate lives.
Yeah.
You don't hear that. Do you ever hear that discussion going on in the news media?
No.
Ever. Never. Ever.
What the Supreme Court decided was it's not our job.
Yeah.
We don't get to decide where life begins. If the people want to do that through their elected representatives, then fine. And it's funny because AOC, in the day after, saying the Supreme Court is wrong and what we need to do is take it up on Capitol Hill. That's what the Supreme Court said.
Yeah.
And these are, all these questions have come about, as you mentioned, more and more. The more we learn about it, the more technology advances, more and more we are pro-life. It has changed over the years.
Yes, it's changed. And I remember, because I was very close, I was working in the early 90s in Buffalo, New York. Remember the massive abortion? In fact, it was going on right down. I mean, a quarter of a mile of the street I lived on, where my apartment complex was, in Amherst, New York.
Yeah.
And I remember the leaders of the activist movement said, we're protesting, we're right, we're not accomplishing anything.
Right.
We're not moving the needle. We've got to move the needle. How do you move it? Well, technology and talking blunt about it, but nobody wishes to talk blunt about it. But when you see, and that's the one thing that we got after Dodds, and we went, well, look at this. The majority of Americans don't believe in abortion till birth. Bingo. That's what you work on if you're a pro-life activist.
Yeah.
That's what you push. And you challenge people on that. That's the only way you're going to change it.
Yeah.
But nobody wishes to have the actual debate on abortion.
It's why I don't believe it'll happen on Capitol Hill in our lifetime.
No, it won't. No. It's, basically we argue abortion in a meme.
Yeah.
That's how we argue abortion in this country. It's become a meme. Nobody actually wishes to discuss it.
Right.
And so on that for Trump, is that going to harm him, what he said yesterday? No, I don't believe it will.
No.
I don't
think so.
I don't believe it will. And I think that I wish that he would stop with his ranting on True Social, but that's only been picked up the last couple of nights. Was it last night when he just was bonkers on it? And it's like, oh, you're trying to lose now, huh? On the, on Harris and sexual acts and stuff like that. Stop it. You don't need it. But then you go through the rest of True Social, it's right on. Perfect. Because this isn't about Trump for me.
No.
It's about stopping the lawfare. Because as I've said, when Trump gets in office, we're going to have problems. They're out there. Republicans are out there in the campaign, and this is Vance and Trump throwing out the BS that tariffs work.
Look,
and the majority of Americans are for tariffs.
And
the majority of Americans are wrong. They don't know how economics works, which means the majority of people that will vote for Trump, if that's the case, have no idea how economics works.
And I'll introduce this. We haven't talked about it on the air yet. I mentioned it off the air yesterday. It's one thing with Tulsi Gabbard. And it's, and in terms of the election itself, RFK Jr., certainly it's about a numbers game. Now, when you start forming your transition team and you start looking at, adding Democrats, bringing Democrats to the table, I can't tell you, I don't believe Tulsi Gabbard is a liberal Democrat, RFK Jr. We can have that discussion.
Yeah.
The problem I have with all of that is what we have seen with the Republican Party in the past. As we have mentioned over the years, repeatedly, Donald Trump is a moderate. And if, as leader of the Republican Party, there are moves that will take, in his second term, if he wins, there are moves that will take the Republican Party even further left, I've got an issue with that.
Right, and you and I had the discussion off the air on it and said, okay, let's have it on the air when it's appropriate, which it is right now.
Right.
Our biggest fear is that Donald Trump will go much more left in his if he wins in 4 years. But we'll have that fight.
As step by step, as we go move by move, we'll go. Yeah. It's not going to stop me from voting for him.
No, because the first thing is weaponization of government and lawfare.
Yep.
We cannot become a banana republic.
Right.
And that's where they would lead us. And that's why the individual issues that we talk about, and on economic issues, especially where the Republican Party is going, that they're throwing out the same BS that Democrats do on corporate taxes. Oh, no, tariffs don't harm anything at all. No. They don't raise prices. They don't cause job losses. Yeah, increasing the cost. I don't care whether it's the GST like they have in Canada, where you put increases throughout the production, all the way through. If you raise prices, the consumer pays it.
Yep.
Stop line.
Yep.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Yeah, so when I hear all the talk about the specific issues, there's part of me that goes, I don't care. Because it's about lawfare and it's about the weaponization of government. That's where I am for this presidential election. And, of course, like I say, you can tell I get ticked off whenever, Trump talks about tariffs, as I have in the past, or when Vance talks about it, or whether Josh Hawley talks about it, or his credit card price controls, that, we get into this mode. And, by the way, the majority of Americans agree with tariffs. And the majority of Americans are wrong. It doesn't work. But it's the not telling the truth about it and saying, oh, no, they'll have no effect. They'll affect the foreign people. No, when you raise the cost, everything goes to the consumer. And I get furious at Republicans for throwing out the same BS that Democrats have done for corporate taxes for the longest time, that it doesn't affect the consumer. Don't be a Democrat.
Exactly.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
So I hope we get to the point where we can scream and yell about bad economic policies of the Republicans.
Yeah.
By the way, versus since she's now endorsed the Green New Deal again, the communist price controls, Green New Deal, companies having to be nationalized because of because of mandates put on them for pollution control, which was really the whole Green New Deal. When you make the comparison of tariffs, which you put them in, go, okay, they don't work, you drop them, is a completely different ballgame than price controls and as we know, the Green New Deal. So I will look forward to having that debate, and even as I do, especially on economic issues, when I get just livid when Republicans are making the same dumb argument that Democrats make. Oh, minimum wage, no, that doesn't affect the economy at all. Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Corporate taxes, no, we punish the corporations. No, it goes to the consumer. Then Republicans, tariffs, well, the foreign nations pay it. No, they don't.
No.
The consumer pays it here. I don't care if you want to propose a policy, just don't lie about it.
Right.
Don't lie about it. And they're lying across the board right now, whether it's Vance or whether it's Trump, on tariffs.
Yep.
Because what they're saying is, well, our tariffs didn't give us great inflation. No, but jobs were lost. Prices went up and jobs were lost. Didn't give you great inflation because the tariffs in the Trump administration weren't broad-based.
Right. It wasn't across the board.
Right. It wasn't across the board as you're proposing right now. And that's the point. When you raise, and everybody knows, everybody listening right now knows that's the fact. When you raise the cost of doing business, the consumer pays. You can't say it only applies over here and doesn't apply over there.
Right.
As they're trying to do. So if you put massive tariffs on, you're either going to get, you're going to get either an increase in prices, job losses, because those increased prices have to be paid by American companies. And you're also picking the winners and losers in our economy. You're saying
and our trade partners are going to reciprocate,
and our trade partners reciprocate.
So
yes.
those domestic producers are going to suffer.
Right.
One of the things that we talked about when Trump announced he was officially announced he was getting back in, he was going to run again. It was okay. Here's the problem with the Midwest. The farming states are going to have issues because they want to know that you're not going to do what you did again. The farmers went through a lot, and remember all the, the government money that was going their way because to make up for what was being lost in the trade war with farming. And the farmers were saying, no, what we want is our trade routes reestablished.
Right.
And so when you bring up the tariff thing, and then you say, not only are we going to do it, we're going to do it across the board, then you risk a great number of those that were directly affected by your last tariffs and their communities. It's not just the farming families. You have to keep in mind when a state economy is on one industry, when it's a farming state, it's not just the actual farmers in that state or in that region that are affected. Everybody is affected directly or indirectly, and so that affects the vote and the consideration for the vote. So I don't know where they are. I don't know what the mindset is of, the farming community. I don't know I know what their concern would be. I just don't know at what level it is right now, and that's a problem.
Well, I don't want, and you've got to give me a pretty good explanation to have government manipulation of the economy.
Yeah.
Now, if you tell me we put tariffs on China because China cheats and are our enemy, I will agree with that. But tell the American public that there's going to be consequences to that prices prices will go up or job losses will happen or a combination of both.
Here's the pain.
Right.
But ultimately, here's the gain.
Right.
And what we look to gain from this is the following. And that's the thing. The potential for because I asked it back in 22, all right, where are the farmers? How do you convince them? Because in my mind, it was, just the way my brain works, your concern would be in his second term, he would do the same thing. And you got to convince them that you won't be doing the same thing. And really, the opposite has happened. It's not only are we going to do the same thing, we're going to do it across the board, as the campaign promise. And if you're going to keep pushing that, then that's going to build that fear in the Midwest, where a lot of independents are, and that has to be a great concern. I don't know what's showing on their internals. The Trump campaign
latest polls show Americans are in favor of tariffs.
Yeah, Americans are, but in terms of what's going to happen politically with the independent in the states in the Midwest, I'd love to see the internals there. Are they concerned?
Well, because it's an easy thing when you say we're going to protect American industry.
Mm-hmm. Oh no, it sounds very noble.
Well, you're going to protect some,
right?
Not everyone, because you're going to have industries that will hurt. Wall Street Journal laid out with the steel tariffs where the job losses were. Said it's easy to say we're protecting this industry. Nobody talks about the industries. Remember it was what was it? It was like the number of small businesses that deal with multinational corporations, the supply chain, and how big it was. And it's like, okay, we're going to protect this industry here with tariffs.
Right.
But those higher prices are passed on to other American companies that end up laying off because of that. And yeah, you can sit there and go, see all the profits they're making? Yeah, they're actually making a lot more profits. They're actually selling less steel because when you raise the cost of prices, again, supply and demand, that's what happens. And it's a combination of both. But my thing is, at least explain what you're going to do. Conservatives don't have to lie.
Right.
Liberals do. But when you pick up a liberal idea, which is government manipulation of the economy, if it's for a good reason to protect yourself from your arch enemy, China, that's one thing. To say across the board to countries where you should be having absolute free trade with is reprehensible.
Yeah. Right.
And especially when you don't tell the truth about it. When you say the cost isn't going to be passed on to the consumer and there will be no job loss because of it. But that's a debate to have then. This election is not about that for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd still rather have the tariffs than the Green New Deal. If you're going to give me which she endorsed again last night, and the price controls and everything else, they want to go, if they had their choice, they'd go full communist.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's what the Green New Deal would do.
Mm-hmm.
As you're seeing right now with the EV mandates, when you had the auto workers for Trump come out going, the EV mandates are killing us.
Right.
Because the government is telling us that we've got to make a product that the American public doesn't want, isn't asking for, is way too expensive. You're taking taxpayer dollars to help fund it. But the fact is, even with the taxpayer dollars, we can't make a profit on it. So we've got to pass that cost on to where we are making a profit. So the cost of gasoline engines and diesel engine vehicles go up. And we're laying off people. Everything about it has been a complete lie.
Yeah.
You know, what we need is to be in the competitive marketplace, because that's the thing with cars, for example. You know, remember, I don't know how many GM is selling now, but remember, GM at one point was selling more cars in China than the United States.
Yeah.
And so United States companies, you know, that's why United States companies, most of them are not for tariffs unless you're the protected company, not the company that's going to have to pay the higher prices.
Right.
And so, again, it's picking and choosing the winners, which for the life of me, Republicans have been against. And it's throwing out the false economic concept that you can raise prices throughout whatever throughout the production chain or the manufacturing to middleman to retail, that you can put a price increase in there and it's not passed on to the consumer. My point is to Republicans, don't lie about it.
Right.
Tell the American public the truth.
Well, and if you're looking to do that, also tell the American public if you're looking to do it permanently or you're looking to do it in order to gain favor in a new trade deal with every partner. Because if you're saying this is a leveraging position, well, number one, you've already shown your hand to the to your whatever trade partner is involved, and then they know that, and they use that against you. But you're also saying that then permanent tariffs would be harmful, which also is admitting short-term tariffs are harmful. So if you're saying that, then you're saying, again, yeah, we're going to go through this pain, but this is what we're trying to gain. At least you're being honest.
Yep.
And that honest approach, we know what would be gained from China. And I'll say this, I don't have as much confidence because I don't have as much confidence in the party, and also the fact that Trump would be limited on time if he won as to what he could get done with China. And the pressure needs to be put on China on intellectual property rights. But we're going to need every other trade partner in the world standing with us on that to say we'll cut you out and make you a pariah.
And that's what we said back in 2017,
yep.
Especially when Trump was talking about the tariffs and trade deals. We said, well, go after China.
Yeah.
Shut them out.
Yeah.
If, they're the problem with intellectual property. They're the ones that aren't abiding by trade rules.
Right.
Shut them out and embrace, as he did for one point, India. Now India is dealing with China.
Yeah.
Because of the Biden administration, complete ineptness. And it should have been, all right, We need to get a trade pact with all the free trade countries out there. Right. That's what we need. China, we shut out. Any other country that doesn't want to be involved in it, you shut them out. And our enemies like China, you shut them out.
Right.
And Russia, because of what's going on, you shut them out. But if you have a trade deal with the emerging democracies around the world, in Asia, Africa, South America, and with Canada, Europe, Australia, that's what you want.
Yep.
You form these huge trading partners, and you shut out the people you should. You don't shut out everybody and then say, all right, they're going to retaliate against us. Everybody trying to manipulate, having the government manipulate their economy to a success is, number one, doesn't work.
Right.
Because an economy works through making a legitimate profit and increasing productivity and efficiency. And you can only do that through competition. If you say we're going to eliminate competition through tariffs, you don't have companies that remain as competitive because they don't have to. And that's the last thing you want.
Right.
And so we'll see. But that maybe we can have that argument when Trump wins. If he doesn't win, oh my God, it's a billion times worse if he doesn't win in the economic numbers. But we just want to throw that out because that's the one thing that has always irked me. Well, it always has. Because you can't be a Republican and sit there and say, we need to keep the government. The government's too involved in business and industry. And then say, yeah, but our guy can have the government influence industry in a better way.
Yeah.
Now, I'll accept that if you say less useless regulations in order for companies to make more profits and allow, for example, oil and natural gas to expand.
Right. Which, by the way, gives us greater leverage against China. They don't produce it, and we
absolutely.
do.
Yep, absolutely it does.
Yep.
But right now, this election to me is none of those issues. And you can tell we're passionate. It's not about those issues. It's about the weaponization of government and lawfare. It's about not becoming a banana republic.
Yep.
It's about not becoming an authoritarian state.
If we vote for more of this, we'll never fix it. If Trump doesn't win, then we've made the decision that it doesn't matter what the government does to other people.
We can debate all those issues when he's in office.
Yep.
And by the way, as we have said, the situation with the budget right now is going to limit any spending. It's going to limit spending. It's going to limit tax increases. It's going to do everything. Because we're now limited because we've screwed ourselves to the wall financially in this country.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't matter who's in office. You can't have the massive spending and debt that we've had. And you can't put massive taxes on the people either. And you can't do unrealized capital gains. Boy, what a bunch of idiots those people are.
Yeah.
They went through, I mean, it's a bunch of people. Ramaswamy did the whole thing about even if it's only for people over 100 million or whatever it is. That's worse.
Right.
Because then you have major, major, major shifts in massive commercial real estate and stocks. What do you call it? Lessening the value of stocks.
Yeah.
If you've got to sell the stock,
then the valuation is gone.
Valuation is gone.
You're just
Right.
it'll bottom out.
Yep.
Because they'd be selling off massive amounts.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. You know, when you look at it, that's why you have people like, Gabby, good God.
Tulsi Gabbard.
Tulsi Gabbard. I'm just going to start Gabby. Tulsi Gabbard and RFK Jr. There's a lot they don't agree with Republicans on. but it's about, you think about it, it's about the weaponization of government. By the way, I include the weaponization of government not enforcing the border.
Yeah.
You know, that I include that in there completely.
Basically tying the hands of Border Patrol agents.
Right.
That's weaponizing.
Right. The what happened during COVID.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All of that, the censoring, the radical transgender movement. Remember, the radical transgender movement ended up with FBI agents in school parking lots taking down parents' license plates who were furious that men were going into women's restrooms and sexual assaults in those particular cases were happening.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at it, it's extremely widespread.
Yeah.
And it has to end. But if we choose as a nation to elect Kamala Harris, then we've chosen for it not to end. There is no talk about this on the left because they know or they believe it works for them. This is what they want. What they want is to re-implement these kind of policies to make sure that, Zuckerberg gets back in line. Now, they're not going to win with an Elon Musk, at least for now, until they come up with a new tactic. And who knows what that will be if we allow this to continue.
The show that never stops. Red Eye Radio.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Download our Red Eye Radio app today and listen when and where you choose, if you can't listen live overnight. All right. We got to get to some other stories, too.
All right.
Because, look, it was just one interview, and it's not going to go anywhere except the fact that she gave plenty of ammo to Republicans, which is good.
Mm.
And to the Trump campaign.
Mm-hmm.
I'm amazed I haven't seen it out there. I've seen it on the internet where other people have put side by side where she talked about fracking back in 2019 or 2020 and now fracking now. I'm expecting that's going to be at least an internet commercial. I would make that a maze because you can take probably 4 or 5 things from there and make her look idiotic.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so they
they
should.
At least. Yeah. I really think there's opportunity here also to capitalize on it because of the fact that there will be zero bump from this. There will not be. In fact, I'd be surprised if it doesn't do a little damage.
You were talking to me earlier off the air about Mark Mitchell that we've talked about before, and we've played audio actually from the YouTube, his YouTube channel where he puts things out, I think, like once a week on where the polls are going now. He's been out there publicly stating that the polls are just completely wrong.
That the other pollsters are, for whatever reason, things have changed, and they are not accurate. In his post yesterday, he put out, it was very interesting, and we really liked the work there at Rasmussen Reports. He continued on that same line and also showed that, look, there haven't been any, except for a couple of new polls since the middle of August. You're not seeing anything come out of the convention. And he was asking, basically, he posed the question, well, why wouldn't other pollsters be very anxious to see what the bump after the DNC would be. And they don't seem to be anxious about that at all. They don't seem to be, if they're taking a poll, they're not releasing it. They're not putting it out. And it's always done post-convention. You going into the weekend, we should have seen a flood of polls on Monday. And here we are now, Friday morning, but when Mr. Mitchell put that up, Mark Mitchell put that up on their Rasmussen Reports YouTube page yesterday, there hadn't been, it was Thursday, and there's nothing new. There's only been a couple of new polls. And he also broke down as a very interesting take on how the other polls are weighted, how they weight their polls, and how they do their methodology and everything else. And he looked at the battleground states, a couple of them, Arizona. He said, Arizona and Georgia really are the focus. But you have to ask yourself, my big takeaway from his post yesterday, his video yesterday, was, why aren't the other pollsters anxious to put out there what the polls are showing after the convention?
Who was it yesterday? Gosh, it was such a busy day yesterday. I didn't bookmark it, but it was somebody on X talking about the Fox News poll and where it was flawed compared to other polls they've done before. That
Right.
if you look at 2020, that they were more closer to the sample, the political demographic sample. And it looks like in Rasmussen, they're trying to keep it the same every single poll,
right?
Which is roughly, what is it, like 34% Democrat, 32%, or 35 Democrat, like 34% Democrat, and like 33% or something independent. And they were talking about how in the latest Fox News poll that was done, that they weren't sampling the same that they were in 2020, the number of Republicans, which is why it showed that she's in the lead and leading in those battleground states.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that, and I forgot who put that analysis out yesterday. I'll see if I can find it. I didn't know we were going to be talking about this now, but I led us to the polls, so that wasn't where I was heading, but it's a great conversation to have because you and I, look, we're cynical. You end up being cynical unless you end up not trusting anything. But with everything that we have seen, starting with the Russia collusion hoax, way back then, and everything that we've gone through now, the censoring, the weaponization of government, we don't trust anything right now.
Right. No.
I don't trust.
No.
I don't trust any poll.
I don't trust
anything. We will tell you, for example, and we did about a week and a half ago, talked about how Trafalgar and Rasmussen were some of the top polls from 2020. And so you look at them. Trafalgar hasn't put out anything in about a week and a half, though. And in their polls, they had Trump winning the vast majority of battleground states.
Mm-hmm.
I don't sense, just judging from politics, and we'll play coming up again because it's one of our audio cuts of the week, what happened during the Daily Show. And that was where his liberal audience went crazy.
Yeah.
He was showing the hypocrisy of the DNC. They just weren't laughing. That was insane laughter.
Mm-hmm.
So they know it. The problem that Harris has is the problem that all Democrats have right now. It's why Gavin Newsom is not the candidate for president of the United States. It's where they stand on the issues, and America disagrees with it.
We've been saying this, that if you going up to the debate between Biden and Trump, leading up to that, what was moving Trump in a big way was the issues. And the issues work against the Democrats over and over and over again. And that's a problem. When you look at where the independents are, you're on the issues, they're clearly in the polls not winning. But when the Democrats, but when you get to the breakdown of it all, I really think that's what the other pollsters are hiding. where the independent is, where the needle is moving. There's no doubt, and Mark Mitchell touched on this yesterday on his post on YouTube. There's movement from RFK Jr. And he said, look, I know a lot of people are going to say, look, he's still on the ballot in 30 some odd states. But Mark Mitchell saying, I believe that people already know, everything about RFK Jr. And even though he's on the ballot there, that, this is nationally, if you look at it, this move is going to favor Trump. So those people, even though he still remains on the ballot in all those states, it's really going to favor Trump. So what you saw, I think, with Kamala Harris is I do believe some of those liberals who were on board with RFK Jr. jumped over to her. But in the battleground states, and this is exactly where they paired it out, how they negotiated the deal between RFK Jr. and Trump. And he said, RFK said it on Fox News Sunday, it's about the states where I'm a spoiler. And this is where we're fighting to take me off the ballot. The other states, it's not going to move the needle. And that's what it looks like is going on right now. It looks like in the battleground states, it's helping Trump. Everywhere else where it's not going to affect the election, again, it's not. It just simply isn't moving that needle. Looking at the national picture doesn't do anybody any good. This is not a national election. And it really does get down to the battleground states. If Trump can win Arizona, if he can win Georgia, Brett Hume said it a few months ago. If he can just win, what did he say, two of the battleground states? And at the time he was leading, Biden was in. But I don't trust the polls, the other pollsters at all. I didn't put a lot of trust in them before. You and I always look at the movement in those polls. But right now, this has the feel of what happened with the Civics poll. The Civics is a daily presidential approval poll that's been going on for years. And there are liberal pollsters. And so when you look at that, the movement sometimes would just freeze. And it's like they just turned it off. When it clearly should have shown Biden dropping. And I think that either is their methodology or they change their methodology to change the results. Or something is happening and they don't put it out. They don't update it. Nobody requires them to do it. Nobody requires them to put the polls out. Nobody requires them to have a certain methodology. It's just simply not required. It doesn't work like the same supply and demand thing. If you had to, if everybody were, watching it every day and there were, tremendous backlash that would affect their bottom line, then you would see some change and some more transparency. It doesn't work that way with pollsters. And so there really is no guide for them. You're trying to build integrity, but what does it matter if you're a liberal pollster and your all the integrity that you care about is on the left? Well, that's where, again, there's really no accountability. So I don't have any. I just don't trust anything right now.
Yeah, and that's you make a great point because the average person might think there's a standard to a poll.
Right.
That a standard must be held. And as we know, number one, how you ask a question in poll can totally change a poll. But when you talk about an election poll, so much of it comes down to who you are interviewing. If you're interviewing, and Rasmussen believes, and this is why they believe they were some of the top pollsters, that they get that political demographic right. Trafalgar the same way, even though you have a smaller sample in the states that they go by. But if you have a poll and you don't list, as Mark Mitchell was saying a couple of weeks ago, he says they don't list their political demographics.
Right.
Don't even list it so the public can see.
Right.
Well, it's useless if you've got 40% of the people that are polled are Democrats, 30% are Republicans, and 32% are independents. That's not an accurate cross sample of the American public,
right?
And where we stand. My problem is with this election is I don't know how you read that right in this election. I would even have that for Rasmussen. How do you know you're right in this one? Because this is a completely different ball game than any election we've ever had before,
right?
As most elections are, but this one, just because you have the incumbent, you've got Kennedy, you've now switched candidates.
Yeah.
How do you know? There's so much disappointment from independents in Biden. How do you judge what an independent even is? I don't know how you do that accurately. So I look at it and I'm going, I have no idea. All I know is this. On the issues, it is such a landslide for where Trump stands. You would then have to believe that roughly 15 to 25% of the population has passionate views on particular issues and are going to vote against where they actually stand on the issues because they hate Trump.
Right.
That's a conclusion you come to.
Right.
Is that believable now?
Right. Exactly.
That's the question. Is
because
that
the
believable
toxicity for Trump has diminished greatly since the last election cycle.
866-90-RED-EYE.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up following the top of the hour, more companies walk away from DEI. Did we talk about the fact, because we did talk about Starbucks a couple of weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we did talk about it. Okay.
The super commuter?
How he's going to super commute, Starbucks that was all about climate change.
Right.
And the new CEO bragging, I'm taking the jet to work every day. We need to be aware of climate change.
But we don't want you to go through the drive-thru because it means you'll be idling your car.
Did he say that?
No, that's what basically environmentalists are saying.
Environmentalists, yeah. Okay,
don't use the drive-thru.
Right. And also, one of the Supreme Court justices apparently completely clueless.
Mm.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning.
Howdy.
All right. Other stories out there, okay?
All right. What do you got?
Supreme Court Justice Jackson was on CBS Morning and had this to say about the Supreme Court decision on immunity for a president. Are you ready?
All right.
Here we go.
In your dissent, you wrote that the court declared for the first time in history that the most powerful official in the United States can, under circumstances yet to be fully determined, become a law unto himself. It sounds like a warning.
Well, I mean, that was my view of what the court determined.
You were concerned about broad immunity.
I was concerned about a system that appeared to provide immunity for one individual under one set of circumstances.
Wow. This goes far beyond her being disqualified for lying about not being able to define a woman.
Yeah, that's why we said she was not qualified to be a Supreme Court justice, because if you can't identify what a woman is, you cannot sit for any cases involving women's rights. If you can't define what a woman is, I believe that something I can't define should have rights. And Republicans, sorry, they dropped the ball there big time. We were livid during it going, Republicans, are you idiots? The next question is, how can you rule on any women's rights issue if you don't know what a woman is? And they never asked the question. But here,
she doesn't even know why that protection exists.
Yeah, why does that one individual appear to get immunity where other individuals in the country do not? Can anybody figure this out? Because
why would we have one massive plane designed for one individual? Why would we have an entire group of Secret Service agents? Should I do what they do? Armed Secret Service agents assigned to one individual.
Because that person is the executive branch of the United States.
Does she know?
Does she even know that? Does Justice Jackson not even know the three branches of government? I'm sure she does. She's just playing stupid again.
And she's playing the same game that liberals have been playing for years to delegitimize the presidency of Donald Trump.
Yeah. He's not an individual. He's the executive branch.
Yep.
That's the executive branch. There's a thing called separation of powers. There's also a thing where presidents do things. For example, in this case, should Obama go to jail? Right?
Right.
He killed American citizens that were living with terrorists without due process. He broke the law.
Right.
You get immunity. You are different if you're the president because you are the executive branch. Oh, no, there's all the departments. Right, and the heads of those departments are chosen by the President of the United States. The President of the United States is the executive branch. The other branches of government, just for people that don't know, the legislative branch and Red Eye Radio.
We're the fourth branch of government.
And the Supreme Court. Does she know?
And the dairy branch and the meat branch.
Does she know that she's part of a branch of government? I mean, again, don't sit there and say, how dare you guys go after her.
Right.
She's the one that can't she does not know what a woman is.
Is it fair
and she sits on the Supreme Court.
Is it fair that an entire branch gets to wear robes? And the others do not? Is there by the way, I just have to ask the question. Is it against the law for get Fetterman on the phone? He'll know. Can the legislative branch wear a robe?
Wow.
We know about a hoodie.
Well, he may sit there and go, wow, I'm sick of the hoodie. Let me wear a robe. Why can't I wear a robe?
It would be, because the idea would be like loose clothing, kind of comfortable clothing.
Yes.
So just a robe.
Yeah.
And we won't ask questions about what's underneath or not. And so that is just a totally other talk show. But this is the play is to form to have you or the ill-informed, willfully ignorant citizen to look at this and say, yeah, why does one individual get that? And start down that path of, again, building political will, which is based on pure ignorance.
Well,
if you don't know how it works.
Let me give you her full statement. Quote, I was concerned about a system that appeared to provide immunity for one individual under one set of circumstances when we have a criminal justice system that would ordinarily treat everyone the same. This is where she's playing stupid. She's not stupid. It's the same thing. She knows what a woman is.
Right.
Just like she understands why the presidency has immunity under a number of circumstances.
Right.
We know that.
Right. It's why Obama won't be indicted for murder.
Right. Exactly.
But again, what you're doing, and it's a clear play. You throw this out there to try and build some political will for those who are willfully ignorant.
Right. Right. Because Justice Jackson believes you're an idiot.
Yep.
And you don't understand the Constitution.
Right.
Now, she does, just like she, as we said, when she was not able to define what a woman is at her Supreme Court hearing. What do you call it? Supreme Court hearing.
Senate confirmation.
Senate confirmation. Thank you very much. Thank you. The Senate confirmation. The reason she
would have treated it as a hearing.
Yeah, we would have, because the question would have been, if you can't identify what a woman is, there's either two things: you're lying,
right,
or and if you're lying under oath,
right.
And so you cannot be confirmed.
Right.
Or number two, you truly don't know what a woman is, and therefore you cannot serve in the Supreme Court of the United States because if you can't identify what a woman is, how can you rule on any women's rights case? By the way, we've said this over and over again, to zero feedback at all from anybody in the left going, well, you guys are wrong because we're right.
Well,
every Democrat knows we're right. If Justice Brown cannot identify what a woman is, and she testified before that under oath in the Senate confirmation hearings, she's either lying, which she lied under oath then, she should not be a Supreme Court justice, or she cannot be a Supreme Court justice because she cannot rule on any women's rights case, because that'd be the first thing. Okay, this women's rights issue on Title IX. Well, I don't know what a woman is. Well, then how can you judge this?
Right. If you can't define a woman,
right,
then everything after that falls apart.
It's clearly a woman's rights case. How do you?
Right. Well, and in this
we
case
know,
of what she said about protections for the executive branch, we believe she's lying. But if you don't, then what you believe is that she is a radical who does not respect the constitutional process, and in that case, should not be sitting on the bench at the highest court.
Right. Either way. Right. But we
believe she's lying.
Right. She's lying on both.
Right. Exactly.
She's a Supreme Court justice lying about that issue. She knows exactly why it exists.
I do believe she's a radical, but I believe she's a radical and lying.
Now, if you want to sit there and say, look, the scope of immunity ends here, then we can have the debate. But what she's saying is the generalization that she's concerned about a system that appeared to provide immunity to one individual under one set of circumstances when we have a criminal justice system that would ordinarily treat everyone the same. Well, we know why that isn't the case. We all know why that isn't the case, because that one individual is not an individual.
Right. Right.
They're not saying this person can get away with anything because they're this person. What they're saying is...
Yeah, they didn't name a person.
Right, right. This isn't about an individual.
Right.
It is about a branch of government, and
Right.
she knows it. But she has no problem as a Supreme Court justice lying, because everybody knows that she lied to the Senate, and that's what... And we were furious at Republicans. Oh, we don't know where to go with this one. Oh, I'm Lindsey Graham. I'll go off on another tangent where I'll scream and yell. But this one, obviously right in front of me, let this one slip by. I just had to use Lindsey Graham. I shouldn't pick at him, but he's the one that, once in a while will get furious and angry. And it's like, yeah, but
he was head of the Senate Confirmation Committee.
Yeah,
right?
you let this one go.
Or a Judiciary Committee.
Yeah. You let this one, that one go. I can't identify what a woman is.
Right.
Well, then get out of here.
Yeah.
Go. What
Right.
are you doing here?
Right.
I don't know what a woman is. You're a liar.
Right.
So,
and
yeah, I had to play that because we didn't. That got lost in the shuffle of everything, and I'm like, nope, got to make sure we play this so people know how Justice Jackson will lie to your face.
Yep.
She knows exactly why the president has immunity in certain cases.
Yep.
She knows exactly why, and she's plain stupid because she wants you to believe that narrative right there.
Yep.
That it's an individual that gets it. It's not an individual. Not an individual.
Well, because if there were enough, if they had at least 5 on the Supreme Court who thought just like she thinks on this issue, it would be the dismantling of the executive branch.
Right. Executive branch would have
Effectively,
no power. Right.
it would take all of the power from the executive branch.
It would destroy the ability of the commander-in-chief to do
Yes.
anything.
Oh.
The commander-in-chief could not do anything without the Supreme Court saying, oh, okay, well, you committed murder there when you killed those terrorists without due process.
Well, essentially, it would put the high court it would put the judicial branch into the Situation Room on every move when it came to national defense.
You're right. Yep, that's a great point.
They would have to approve every move.
Yep. And that's why...
And our enemy would take us down knowing that.
And that's why, again, Justice Jackson...
Dangerous.
Dangerous liar. Not just a liar, but a dangerous liar.
Yep. 4 more voting like that, and national defense goes to hell.
You take away the power of the executive branch.
Yep.
Which then becomes the power of the judicial.
Yep.
The judiciary, which the Democrats wish to pack.
Oh, yeah.
So they get the outcome that they want.
Because they want to weight it to make sure that, well, we don't need 5. We can just, whatever it's going to be, as long as we can pack the court.
And then they're the ones that become involved in the selective prosecution of whatever presidents they wish to prosecute.
Yep. And whoever else. By that time, we really are a banana republic.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at JJ Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on speed and space management. Due to safety concerns, many motor carriers have policies that limit or prohibit the use of cruise control. If your motor carrier does allow you to use cruise control, you should only use it in good driving conditions during daylight hours and on roads that have light traffic, few curves or hills, and a consistent speed limit. Never use cruise control when operating in adverse driving conditions, including wet, icy, or slippery roads, during rush hour in heavy traffic or on congested highways, at night, or when you're tired or fatigued. During all of this, you want to be controlling and adjusting your speed as you drive instead of having to suddenly brake if you encounter an obstacle. In the case of a slippery road surface, you want to be able to slow your vehicle by not accelerating instead of using the brakes whenever possible. This tip was brought to you by J.J. Keller and Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up following the bottom of the hour, staying on message. The Trump campaign was yesterday. We'll get to that. Meanwhile, Ford Motor Company backing away from some of its diversity, equity, and inclusion DEI initiatives, becoming the latest American firm to pump the brakes on DEI this year, joining the likes of John Deere, Lowe's, and Tractor Supply. Now, filmmaker Robbie Starbuck, who is an anti-DEI activist, has been leading a campaign exposing major corporations' woke policies, reported on X on Wednesday that he was in the middle of an investigation of Ford when the company sent him documentation indicating it had made some changes. Ford CEO Jim Farley addressed the crowd. Starbuck posted the letter. Started reading a different paragraph. Starbuck posted a letter from the Ford CEO Jim Farley to the employees, where the chief executive stated that the external and legal environment, what did we say? Why did we say DEI would die?
It's got to be a response and also a legal response, ultimately.
Yep. Where the chief executive stated that the external and legal environment related to political and social issues continues to evolve.
Continues to evolve.
And thus, in the past year, the company has taken a fresh look at our policies and practices. Yeah, racist DEI is going to get you in trouble.
Exactly.
In the letter, Farley laid out a series of bullet points telling the Ford workforce that the company does not utilize quotas in hiring and saying that it prioritizes its resources for business purposes versus publicly commenting on the many polarizing issues of the day. Farley said the company has evolved its employee resource group, noting that all the ERGs are open to all employees, the employee research groups. Farley also informed employees that Ford had made the decision earlier in the year to no longer participate in the Human Rights Campaign Corporate Equality Index, which is the annual survey and report used to gauge policies, practices, and benefits pertinent to lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer employees. So there you go.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when you choose. All right, so J.D. Vance spoke before the firefighters union yesterday. And it was interesting. Was it the firefighters union that...
in Jersey?
Yeah.
With Chris Christie?
Was that the firefighters union?
Yeah, I think it was.
That Christie spoke to years ago.
Yeah.
And they were booing him, and he just said, why are you angry at me?
I'm telling you we're out of money.
Right. I'm telling you the truth. They lied to you, and you cheered them.
Yeah.
The money was never going to be there. It was never allocated to be there.
Right.
And that was one of the last. Well, I don't know if it was one of the last, but this is one of the. You don't hear much from Chris Christie anymore, do you?
No,
Where has he been? How come he's not?
I don't know.
Is he on the Sunday morning news show? Is he the one? any of them anymore? Wasn't he on one of them?
You know, they trimmed some fat there at CNN, and I don't know if he. Sorry, I didn't mean it that way. But they did make some cuts.
He wasn't at CNN though.
But didn't he get?
He was on the Sunday morning news show, so it was.
I know, but didn't he at one point? What wasn't he a paid analyst or a contributor at CNN?
No, I thought it was CBS. I'm not sure. I can't remember. It's been too. I'll do some research on it
because they made a bunch of changes and said I think they came to the conclusion they weren't going to pay for that anymore. They weren't going to have any more paid contributors anymore, and a lot of people disappeared. I don't know if he was part of that or not.
Here is J.D. Vance on message yesterday speaking to the firefighters union.
And here's another promise. We're going to protect your pensions because heroes like you deserve to retire with dignity and to enjoy the blessings of the country that you helped build and help protect. And it's not just words, it's not just promises that I'm making. I am actually a co-sponsor of the Social Security Fairness Act, and I'm proud of it. I think it's ridiculous to penalize our firefighters in retirement for doing the right thing and fighting for our communities. Now, look, I know you do a hard and dangerous job. You spend long hours away from your family. The work can leave physical and emotional scars, and I've seen it even in the firefighters that I know. Frankly, you don't get paid what you deserve. But you don't do it for fame and you don't do it for fortune. You do it, and I know this, because you love your communities. And I think you deserve to live in a country where people like you and your children can afford to live the American dream in the cities and towns that all of us love. You deserve to live in a country where you can buy a home, put gas in your car, provide health care and education to your family, and put a nice meal on the table. A country where kids can walk safe streets, go to safe schools, and have the freedom to just be kids. A country where if you work hard and play by the rules, you can live a good life. Now, these aren't Democrat or Republican principles, but they are the principles that President Trump and I are fighting for on this campaign, and we're going to fight for it every single day in the White House. And that's why I want to ask you humbly for your support. President Trump and I want exactly what you want. More jobs, rising wages, a secure border, safe streets, and an affordable country where every child and every family can achieve their dreams. Now, he delivered that during his first 4 years as president. He changed my mind, and he won my vote. And for the skeptics still out there, I hope he has changed your minds too. But I'll tell you, whatever your politics and whatever your preferences, I make this solemn promise. Whether you support us or not, whether you ultimately endorse us or not, President Trump and I believe in our firefighters, we believe in our first responders, and we will never stop fighting for you. I am rooting for you. I am proud of you. I am thankful for you. God bless you. I want your support. We're going to fight for you whether we get it or not. God.
Now, in the beginning, he got some boos.
Right.
And he addressed it. He said, what have they done for you? But I think it's absolutely great. I mean, you make the comparison of Vance, where he just spoke right there, to Walz or Harris.
Mm-hmm.
Very confident.
Yeah.
Very, very, very specific. And going into areas that is enemy territory and say, you should vote for us.
Mm-hmm.
You should consider voting for us. At least think about voting for us, because you haven't got anything here. You haven't got anything there. And going into enemy territory as they are with the correct message.
Yeah.
And that was perfect, because that was, and I wanted to make sure I played that since I put it on X yesterday and I forgot about it. But I wrote on message, cost of living, quality of life, and then in capital letters, inflation.
Yeah, right.
Thank you. And that's what he was talking about. When you're talking about cost of living, you're talking about inflation, which they should be talking about every single day in some way, even if in the broad general way like that. All the other stuff is important. You know, the border, because that has become something that's affected everywhere. But inflation affects even the border and what's happened in the cities I saw, was it $350 billion has been spent so far?
Yeah.
On illegal immigrants in the past year. This is taking all municipalities and cities and combining it all together. Maybe it was $150 billion. Okay, it was $150 billion, I think, has been done on that. But still, it doesn't affect everybody every day. Inflation is the one thing. All the other issues are important, but remember, at the end of the day, and that's why when you get out there, not only should you, I really think they should say, are you better off now or were you better off under President Trump?
Yeah.
They need to say that every single day. And so, I mean, that's fine what he did there, but you still need that to pound it every single day. Are you better off now or are you better off with Trump? And because nothing, and we had said this as a warning to Democrats way back then, where they're just, spending like crazy and not even thinking about it, and wanted to spend trillions more. Mm-hmm. Remember, even after the $1.9 trillion, what did they want to spend? I mean, initially it was Sanders wanted to spend, was it $6 trillion?
Yeah.
And then it became $3.5 trillion and ended up like 1.2 or something like that.
And we'd been saying all along that if they had the numbers on Capitol Hill, if they had the seats on Capitol Hill, there's no telling where we'd be. No telling. I mean, they would have gone far beyond what they did. If they had the seats, if they had the numbers on Capitol Hill, there's no telling how much they would have spent and would still be doing it.
And we had said, look, the difference is inflation is way worse in a recession.
Yeah.
Because in a recession, even if you have 10% unemployment, 90% of the people are working, and odds are if you're in a recession, prices are kept low because of supply and demand.
Right.
You don't have sky. When you do, I mean, that's super financial hell to pay. But the fact is, inflation affects everyone every day. I think one of the best things, and it was so simple. Someone said it this week. It's amazing that we can cover what we think is every angle. And somebody makes the comment, as I heard this week, and I went, that's really good. And it was so simple. People buy almost the exact same thing at the grocery store every single week. Like, wow. So they know exactly, and every time they go, geez, the numbers don't mean anything to them. The numbers, and you've always said it, by the time the numbers come out, everybody has already felt the inflation.
Well, this is why I think, to a large extent, why the whole joy thing at the convention for the Democrats did not work. Why would you be promoting joy? Joy about what? You're part of what caused it. You're part of the administration inflicting the pain. What are you so happy about? And I think their internals probably showed that backlash. I think that's why you see in last night's interview a very subdued approach. You didn't see the whole joy thing.
No, you did. Nope. In fact, it was obvious. She was told, don't laugh.
Right. Don't laugh. Don't smile. Don't try and be too happy. People are suffering. Right now, they're struggling. They're underwater.
They want seriousness.
And you're part, everyone knows you're part of the administration that put them there.
Yeah.
One of the things that they can't do, that clearly politically they have to do in order to really convince people, is separate from the Biden administration. But you can't do that. She can't. She can't say, I'm going to be different than I am now. She's trying to. She's lying about it. and not getting away with it.
Well, that was the failure last night. It was obvious she was trying to have it both ways.
My values haven't changed, but she didn't say that she was, in fact, on the fracking thing, she's, as you point out, she's trying to have it both ways. She didn't come out and say, we're going to end fracking, and I've always believed that. She's trying to pretend to be pro-fracking and that she's always been pro-fracking, and nobody buys it.
Yeah. And that's the problem when you say, I haven't changed my values at all, but I'm telling you I'm changing on all the major policies that I've been endorsing my entire political life.
Right.
You can't do that. And we had said that's the problem from day one, is she's trying to separate herself while at the same time not separating herself, and you can't do it. And she wasn't able, when she came out and said, basically, she endorsed Bidenomics, that was like, wow, you're just handing stuff.
Right.
It's really amazing that for 40 days, that was the best that you could do.
That's the whole point. All this time, and that's what you deliver.
And the same thing about Waltz. It's like you had a month to come up with an answer to why did you lie about combat.
Right.
My grammar. My
Yeah.
God, that was so bad.
Yeah.
I mean, that was just so bad.
Yeah.
My grammar's bad.
Right.
It wasn't good. And like I said, the production elements were horrible, as we had said earlier. The production elements,
I don't know
so
what they were
dark,
trying to pull off at CNN.
I know.
They're the ones in charge of the lighting.
It was, I'm not kidding. When I was watching it, I said to myself, because when she would lean down and the shadows would make herself look very dark, almost as if something you do with the flashlight for Halloween.
Right, yeah.
And I went, oh, my God, this is the Seinfeld Two-Faced.
Right.
The woman in great light was beautiful, and then in bad light was not attractive. And I'm like, wow, this is like, the lighting was horrible.
Well, it's like they were talking to a whistleblower.
No, as you said, a criminal in an interrogation room.
Well, I halfway expected Dana Bash to say, well, that's all the questions I have for you. The other detectives will come in just a few minutes. Either that or she and Tim lean back and it's a full shadow over their face, and they start doing your voice like this. We're familiar with what's going on inside the Harris campaign. Nothing has changed. I mean, it was weird. The whole thing was bizarre.
Yeah.
It was, CNN's not going to get anything good out of this, and the Harris campaign certainly is not.
The Trump campaign is, though.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah, absolutely.
866-90-RED-I.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-I on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up in the next hour, this has been one of those rare weeks where we have multiple audio cuts of the week. I mean, so much happy. Think about it. At the beginning of the week, Robert Kennedy.
Yeah.
We got to play the audio again of The Daily Show because that was wild. But it does give you an indication because you're trying to figure out with the polls and everything else. It's like, nothing seems to be making sense here. What makes sense? What's real?
Right.
And when you see a liberal crowd like that cheer about the hypocrisy of the DNC, that shocked me.
Yeah.
I went, what's going on here?
I mean, it was roaring laughter.
Yep.
And that's pretty rare.
Unless they were all on drugs.
Maybe they were. I don't know.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.